very warm welcome to this, the 56th edition of the Tour of the Basque Country. 6 days of hilly, testing terrain, let's put it that way. Not exactly alpine, but it's certainly brought some explosive riders and some who are thinking deeper into the season about GC glory in the Grand Tours. Well, it's been a rainy day so far, although it's dried up and it's getting a little bit warmer than it has been at the top of the day. This is what we're dealing with. In fact, it's 2 laps of about 60 kilometres included here, and so we'll be coming across the start-finish line for the final time of asking in just a short while, or the penultimate time I should say. As you can see, the chase for the time being is on. We're not exactly dead centre of the day, but we're coming up to the Alto San Miguel, which is a reasonably well-known climb to those of you who follow not only the Tours of the Basque Country, the various races therein, of which this is the Survivor. So we're just cresting Alto San Miguel right now, and with 72.3 kilometres to go, I can tell you we've got 4 riders up the road. They've had a bit of fun. Well, actually 3 now, because Gianluca Brambilla is on a callback, and I think it's all hands to the pump for Dan Martin on a rolling day, and maybe the one and only chance that the quick-ish guys can have some fun in maybe a reduced group. We'll see. So many climbs to start off this Tour of the Basque Country. It is almost cruel. It does all end, by the way, with an individual time trial. So if you're going to have a chance and you want to build, time trialing is not really your thing, and I think Dan Martin would probably agree with that description. It's not really his favoured discipline. He'd like to put something in the bank and maybe be part of an elite group that breaks away today. Names like Contador, Joaquin Rodriguez, of course, defending champion. We've got Aru here, Quintana, likewise. That's Nero, incidentally. Michael Landa is leading the charge for Sky, but Sergio Arnau, pretty handy in this kind of terrain. Rui Costa, it's a big list, including the aforementioned Dan Martin. Proper GC boys, and indeed those who like a shorter stage race. They're going to have their fun here, Magnus Backstedt, and we're going to have our fun watching them.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the more interesting early sort of season stage races, and probably one of the more taller ones at that as well, with an awful lot of climbing to be done. And we're sort of starting to see the guys who are likely to be featuring in the second part of the Spring Classics, the Ardennes Classics. A lot of the guys that are going there with big aspirations are coming from this race and going directly up to Belgium and Holland to take part in that.
There you are, and you are seeing that we've only got 3 riders left in this break. The aforementioned Brambilla, who was third on the Strade Bianche, remember, has been called back to help out with the push for Dan Martin and Ethics Quickstep. They've got a lot of firepower. There are other teams as well with big options today on this kind of rolling terrain. As you can see, it looks pretty hilly, and that's the point. There are some steep ascents where the road was built, how can we say this, the shortest route possible. So there's some real kicks along the way, and in fact it's not unusual to find gradients exceeding 20% in the Tour of the Basque Country, but they're short, sharp shocks, so nothing too difficult, if not the fact that it is difficult to say. So as you can see at the moment, it's Tinkoff don't really want this one to get away from them, and Orica Green Edge. You've got an option with Simon Gerrans and Michael Albacini today. It's a real sort of Gero kind of day, so good options for him and Dan Martin, the aforementioned. Let's just talk about the break, though. It's quality. We've got Johan Lastra, the young 22-year-old from Cairo Realm. Now, he's been very keen to get the King of the Mountains jersey and has been battling for the peaks again and again. We've only had one categorised, one climb on this day. We haven't got there just yet, but he has been assembling points. Others, like Marcel Wies, he's the principal rider for I Am Cycling, the Swiss 29-year-old. And he's, on a couple of occasions, he's been top 10 in the Tour of Rodomandy, so he's a danger, and he's up the road, and that's why these guys are pushing on so much. And Nicolas Ede as well, of Cofidis. Really, Julien Simon is their quickest guy for the sprint a little bit later on. They've got some other fast men as well, but Ede, 28 years of age, 7th in the Criterium International last year, and also went well, just missed out on the top 10 in the Paris-Nice last year. So he's a man who functions well in mixed terrain and the demands of a short stage race, which is exactly what we've got right now. Magnus, it's quite a test for an opening day, I suspect. We always had one for the sprinters traditionally in this race, but they are prepared to chop it and change it, and it's much more of a challenge. No wonder there aren't really the out-and-out sprinters taking part in this race, but quick men nonetheless.
Well, there's certainly no real top-end sprinters going to the Basque Country. Most of the guys here are climbers, are the guys that are looking to go to the Ardennes Classics to do well over there, and that's always kind of been the tradition more than anything. On the odd occasion have you found a sprinter going there, but mainly because you might need a bit of extra climbing for a week. But yeah, I think today's stage is certainly looking pretty hard for an opening stage, but not something that we haven't seen in the past in this particular race.
They do chop it and change it and try and mix it up. Let's just describe what they're dealing with today. Tomorrow is a decisive stage, and it comes, well, as you know, very, very early. Also, the way they categorise climbs here is a bit of a mystery. It's almost like they write down the numbers on little bits of paper, screw them up, and then just pull them out one by one. Because tomorrow we've got an uphill finish into Garrett-Stataccio, and it is a nasty one. It's only categorised 2 though, but at the end of what will feel like a long 174 Ks, again after today's climbs, we've got 2, 4, 6, 8 climbs today. We've got 5 tomorrow, and then we go to Lazarka. That's the longest day of 193 kilometres, so coming early as it does on stage 3. Then we go to the Alto Aya as part of the day on stage 4. And then we're not even at the Queen stage until stage 5, where it's formerly an Escatel Bicicleta Tour day up to Arate. That was their sort of principal pivotal climb during that race, which sadly because of economic reasons is not with us at the moment. And then we have that rolling, more than that, climbing time trial. And so pitched to some of the tests for the stage 6, Magnus, they're saying that they don't expect anyone to use a time trialling bike on it because there's so many climbs within the climbing time trial of stage 6.
Yeah, and there's always the weight penalty of having a time trial bike, but although they are getting lighter and lighter, it's still depending on how technical the descents are and how steep the climbs are, then a lot of the times you end up being better off actually riding your road bike with some clip-on time trial bars and just some, well, I guess relatively light wheels if it's going to be this hilly.
So coming down and into town, we'll be crossing our start-finish line of the last loop in about 7 kilometres time. So watch carefully, because this is the approach, and we're going to be heading back out and doing the San Miguel and then coming back into town. We'll peak the San Miguel next time by with 8.3 to go. So Alto San Miguel, there is a hostelry on top. I'm not sure what sort of beer they sell, but I think you may have guessed. The push in then, we've got a few raindrops. This is not dropped bidons, and they're expecting 12 millimetres of rain to fall today. And they said there was a 60% chance of it raining all day. Well, it hasn't, so I'm not quite sure where they got that from, but once they go out of Etxeberria and heading for our line and our finish, watch carefully. It's not overly complicated, Magnus, and it will be pacey at the finish because it's gently downhill, the run to the line here.
Yeah, it is around about 5% downhill over the last 3 kilometres or so, so it's a difficult sprint to deal with, and obviously with no team having the outright fastest man here effectively, I think it's going to be a very hard contested finish. But the question is who's going to take who's going to take charge, and I'm really looking at Orica Green Edge for this one. They're here with Albacini and Simon Gerrans, and I think those two guys are probably on paper at least the fastest riders in this bunch.
I think you're absolutely right, although the form that Daniel Martin has been showing of late, fabulous in Catalonia and Valencia, he's a monster. I suspect that today he would have preferred it even a little bit more difficult at the end. I guess we're just going to have to wait and see how he's mooded.
I think Dan Martin is going to more look at an uphill finish rather than mixing it up into sprints. So he's not really an out-and-out right sprinter. Obviously, if the race has been very hard and if the finish is 3 kilometers uphill and then flattens out, then he's still quick, but not. I don't think he's anywhere near someone like Simon Gerrans, for instance, in a pure sprint.
Totally agree. Tinkoff here, part of the chase down, as you can see, and other GC contenders, including the team of Fabio Aru with Astana, are also here. Miguel Angel Lopez is probably a better bet than Fabio Aru at the moment because I don't know what's happened with Fabio Aru, but he had a poor Catalonia. It's his first time here. It's almost like he's punishing himself to go and find out how he can put things right. Whether he'll manage to do so here is another guess. So here's your approach then. It says 64.6 k's to go. I think that's slightly wrong, but you see the twists and turns. Nothing too serious. Reasonable road surface as well for them to deal with. Are they going to get a bell, do you think, today? Maybe? No. So anyway.
I don't think they class it as a circuit race.
God, honestly, I don't know. Maybe the bell's being used for another purpose today.
I'm sort of waiting for your explanation as to how this course actually looks. It's one of the highlights of my days.
What, the description?
Yeah, your description of how the course actually looks on paper.
Yeah, it's a freshly knocked out octopus. It's got several tentacles, which we're taking on, and then sort of a large head section. It's a shame you can't see a map of it because that's a pretty accurate description. Magnus has lost it now, but you did ask. A minute and 20 is the gap. Yeah, how is that as a description?
Wow.
You can see it, can't you?
Yeah, okay then.
So the insurance policy being built in, Magnus needs health insurance, especially after working with me. There is Astana and everybody else, including Cofidis today, who've got an option with Julien Simon. Why not? And they're getting a bit greedy with sprints of Cofidis. No Buani here. If he was, he'd probably be heading home immediately after today. That's his way at the moment. But nonetheless, here they come. These and a glorious reception here. It's no doubt about it. The Basque Country is a huge hotbed of cycling, as you know. They've been bitten with the economic bug over the last few years that's troubled much of Spain, and unfortunately has lost a couple of good races. But this one is on the calendar, and it's here for you to enjoy all week. Settle yourselves in then. Get ready to roll. Sylvain Dillier just heading back. We're going to have a look at some of the last 10 years of winners for you. Incidentally, Sean Kelly won this on 3 separate occasions, so it's a shame we're not going back a little bit further than 10 years. First time was I thought it was 84. It was 84. It was just before Wham split. Then 1986 and 1987. Joaquim Rodriguez is our defending champion. Alberto Contador is also here, as is Nairo Quintana, who won in 2013, Sammy Sanchez in 2012, and Andreas. Chris Horner, yes, the veteran in 2010. Alberto Contador, of course, has also had other fun here. In fact, we're passing by reasonably close to the village of the famous steak that was almost driven through his cycling heart, I'm afraid. But yes, Alberto Contador ruining this region, I think, fair to say, all forgiven in this part of the world, naturally enough. And so, what about the last Basque winners? I think it was the old Gorospe back in 1990, but I'm guessing we'll find out, because I'm not really up on who was and who is not a Basque. Let's have a look. Oh, there we are. Ivan Mayo in 2010. I was right about Gorospe in 83. You've got to say, well done.
Yeah, well done, Carlton, for that one.
Yeah. Oh, and in 90. Old Julian Gorospe and Aitor Oza. There we are. Likewise. So the Basques have not had too much fun. In fact, this race has been troubled on occasion. It was, there was a hiatus of quite some time, 32 years I think, from 1936 to 68, if my memory serves me right. Anyway, big hiatus. The Basques really did suffer, as I'm sure you know, for quite a period, Spanish Civil War and all that. So yes, it was a race that was off the calendar and then came back, winged back into our consciousness in 1969. So there was no race in 36, and it came back in 69 after a 32-year hiatus. So long time with a big gap. Gino Bartali won in 35, and then when it came straight back in 1969, Jacques Anquetil. What a name to have suddenly reignited this race, and we've had it ever since, Magnus, and I'm pleased about that because through some pretty slim and difficult times since 2008, this race has managed to hold its own. It shows you how popular this area is for cycling.
It is an amazing area to go riding, and obviously if you're into climbing, otherwise I suggest some flatter countries like Belgium.
Yeah, indeed. Well, apart from a few lumps. Funnily enough, this area is not as peaky as Catalonia. We don't have that sort of that full-on, if you like, Pyrenean area. But the Basque country is more rolling.
Climbs, really, as such. It's more just up and down all the time.
Yes, exactly. Very difficult to settle here, as you've probably heard. For me, says Andrew Clark, Wham never split. I'm with you, everybody. Me too. Dimension Data are here. What about Steve Cummings? He's decided to. Steve-O's made the journey. I think that's possibly a good outside call. He goes well on rolling terrain. And here is Perito, who you've been dying to see. I know. Here he is.
Yeah, here he is, and certainly I think starting to come into some sort of decent form as well. He's been struggling in the early part of the season, and he's looking better and better, I found, in certainly in Catalonia. Just
dogged with illness. I think he picked it up in the Algarve, didn't he? And it sort of rocked him a little bit, but he did start to retrieve himself, as you said, in Catalonia. Probably not the same standard as he would be hoping, but this race he feels more or less belongs to him. He's our defending champion and wears number 1.
Yeah, whether he's going to have the legs to defend it or not, I'm not sure. But I think he's here to continue to build on the form that he started to sort of find in Catalonia. And of course, when you got number 1 on your back, you want to give it a go to try and defend your title, even if you know it's going to be a difficult job. But I think there's been a lot of guys over the last 2 years now that have been struggling with early season illnesses, and there are a few guys who have really backed off and taken their time to get well and recover, and the ones who have done have actually come back into racing relatively quickly and found the form pretty fast as well. Whereas the guys that sort of tend to push on and do another couple of days and do another race and come back in when they haven't quite recovered and trained well, they seem to have sort of been stuck with this almost sickness bug for a very long time.
Yes, it's not pleasant. Vasil Kirienka is here, by the way, for Team Sky, as we're just looking a little bit further down the line towards the rear end of the peloton. Igor Anton from Team Dimension Data just flashing across your screen. Sky here with Michael Lander as principal, but I would have thought that Sergio Henao is probably the chosen son. It's whether or not he's expected to back up Lander, but I think he's going to be given his head, and Sergio Henao is very, very good on this kind of terrain. Phil Danian, Sebastian Henao, by the way, Vasil Kirienka, the big engine room. Lars Petter Nordhauger won't mind if it does rain more than a little bit. David Lopez and indeed Zandio. We were just getting the I fancy a drink from Ryder Ejdal. There we are. Or maybe it's because he's thinking about going up the San Miguel.
Yeah, that might be it. You never know.
Could well be.
It'd be interesting to see whether Ryder is starting to find his legs a bit again, or how he's going at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And I think apart from us finding out, they want to find out themselves, Magnus. You're never really quite sure how you're rolling until you pitch yourself against reasonable opposition. Steve Cummings looking amazing relaxed, just having a brief chat back to base as well, one of the Astana boys, as you can see. And I'm just wondering whether they like, this is Miguel Angel Lopez, by the way, in his cold weather gear, as you can see. If he's not supporting Aru, he's a very, very good option. He's got plenty of those. Possibly even today, but I think on probably more some of the peaky stuff, which is why it's being picked out for us. BMC, they got brutalised in Flanders, Magnus.
Yeah, unfortunately they had a really horrible day in Flanders, and didn't look very good, that crash at all. It's just one of those freak incidents that sometimes happen, and
they all went down together, didn't
wiped
they?
out the whole team. Yeah.
That was Sammy Sanchez, by the way, we've just seen sailing by. Also one of those with an option today. What about the Yates brothers? It's not just about teeing up Simon Gerrans today, but Adam Yates, of course, won San Sebastian and Turkey famously. He's got question marks with his time trialling ability, but Simon Yates, he's actually run well here. In fact, he was the top 5 last year. They're working for the Yates brothers as well, aren't they, overall?
Oh, definitely. I think their main plan for this week is to set them up for a good general classification.
So we'll take ourselves a break, and we'll be back with more live here from the Basque Country. Welcome back. Rain just starting to suggest itself at the moment, as you can see. Still our 3 breakaway riders up the road. There from Cairo Rural is Jonathan Lastra. He's just 22 years of age, and I think he may well be in the King of the Mountains jersey at the end of today. Just behind him in the red jersey of Cofidis is Nicolas Ede, 28 years of age. 7th in the Criterion International last year, 13th in Paris-Nice as well. So in fact that is Marcel Wies, the Swiss 29-year-old. Twice top 10 in Romandy, and so yeah, capable of taking on some peaks, that's for sure. So time to check out some of those who are ones to watch. Alberto Contador, 3 times Vuelta winner, as you can see, 2 times winner of the Giro d'Italia, and yes, this says 2 times winner of the Tour de France. He says more, but you know all about that. Vuelta al Basque 3 times here, including year before last, and a couple of times Paris-Nice. Bertie is coming to the end of his career and wants to win everything. He's here to win, simple as that. Nairo Quintana, is he here to win? Well, Tour of the Basque Country, you can see he did win in 2013. He's not a great time trialist, but with the time trial here being more than a lumpy one, it's got some real proper tests in it, and I think everyone will be off the time trial bikes. He's got a great chance of doing it again. He is, of course, Giro d'Italia winner from 2014 and pushed Chris Froome very, very close in the Tour de France last year, and that will be the battle we can't wait to see rekindled. Joaquim Rodriguez, here it is. No Grand Tours, 9 stage wins on the Tour of Spain, the eternal Mr. Second, but he has, of course, won this race, Tour of the Basque Country. He's our defending champion, and it was a great win for him, quite frankly. Usually picks his stage wins in the Grand Tours and delivers, but it's always on punchy stages, of which we have plenty here in this race. Fabio Aru won the Vuelta, of course, at the end of last year, and then kind of went to sleep a bit. He's been very, very quiet, let's put it that way. He goes well in the Giro, as you know, stage wins, etc., all over the place, but not quite sure what's wrong with Aru. He's lost his mojo at the moment. I know he doesn't have the best relationship with Vincenzo Nibali in the Astana team. I don't know whether he's been put back in his box. Opening that is Thibaut Pinot, as you can see. He's worn the yellow jersey on the Tour de France. He's had stage wins there, and yeah, Criterium International belonged to him. So you can see, perhaps, I don't know, he's worth considering. There are others as well, I think. Sergio and now John Izagirre, but both playing backup. What about Rui Costa as well? Why not? And Sammy Sanchez can always turn the clock back if things go his way. Magnus, it's a fascinating group of favourites that have come here, and you factor in those that we didn't mention, like Steve Cummings, like Dan Martin, like Gero for today, and it's a sparky lineup, isn't it?
It is definitely a very strong stage race bunch of riders, and some of the best Grand Tour riders that we've had for some time that are here. So there's only a few missing, and I mean, this race usually lends itself very well to attacking really hard, tough riding. There's enough climbs here to for everyone to be more than pleased with the amount of sort of altitude meters that they gain on any stage, really.
You nearly used the word altimeter then.
Well, yeah, I almost did, didn't I? I was trying to refrain from doing so. It would have made me sound clever.
Altimeter, of course, decent rider. Anyway, Diego Ulizzi is the man that they're working for behind, and it's a bit of a breakdown in communications and indeed about workload. And this is basically Nico Erde saying, listen, we're letting you take these King of the Mountains. Will you please do a little bit of work right now? I'm reading his thought bubble. It's as simple as that. Here we are. I think Ede probably a bit upset that appeared to be a steal by Lastra over the top. He was going to cycle on and give him a piece of his mind, and that's precisely what he did. I think they're supposed to be sharing the points. That's what he was perhaps saying. But anyway, when you have some allies out there, come on, what are we doing? I give you the climb, you not pushing on. I don't know, I'm guessing.
Well,
what's your thoughts?
I don't think there's anything there to talk too much about. No. I mean, it's a bike race, and as far as I can see, they got different colours on their jerseys. So, certainly on the first day like this, there's no real sharing going on anywhere. Everyone is out for individual glory and try and pick up a jersey, and that's a very important thing for certainly a team like Caja Rural. They need all the sort of media attention that they can get. It is still a fairly small team, and for every time they get TV time, new jerseys, media, press, the works, then that's potentially another year that sponsor is staying with that team.
High up in the mountains here, we while we were off air, we just passed by a spectacular monastery, by the way. Never been tempted to take the hassock myself, but they always seem to set them in the most beautiful surroundings. It's very verdant, very green, and part of the reason it is so is because it rains an awful lot in this part of the world. And yes, you can see the architecture here often looks a little bit alpine, mountainous. Thick walls, small windows, big roofs, that kind of thing. So yes, it is a bit grisly, and the rain's coming in, Magnus, and this is going to add a factor to today, particularly on some of the descents. When you've got plenty of climbs, you have plenty of descents as well.
Yeah, we're doing some fairly technical descents in this part of the world as well. Very twisty, difficult angles on the corners as well to deal with, and there's something down here that you're never quite sure how much grip you got on the tarmac when it gets damp. There's certain sections of this country where you get very good grip and you can go quite fast down a mountain even in wet conditions, and then all of a sudden you hit this one road where you might as well put your ice skates on.
Indeed, and especially when you head under the trees, because there's quite a bit of leaf litter. Well, actually not leaf litter at this time of year, it's buds, bud husks. There you are. When the leaves come out, I know we've passed by some evergreens here, but as you can see, there's still plenty of trees waiting to come into leaf, and they produce a lot of litter as they grow. Well, we've gone to the finish line because we've got a breakdown in pictures, as you can see, a few statics along the way, and still the chat goes on. There we are. I think this is a sail up by Marcel V saying, what was our friend Erde going on about? And Lastra saying, well, he's just having a go unnecessarily. There we are. Past the biblical printing works in this part of the world, the big glass north-facing windows to help with the light, with the illuminations of the letters. Obviously that was a thing of the past. Minituba. Let's see if I've got any notes on it, by the way, on our on this little place that we are coming through right now, and the answer is absolutely not, apart from the biblical place. There we are. They cut plenty of wood. That's all I can tell you about it. And there it is, writ large. Several stairs of it. Well, I hope this picture issue settles down. So, I tell you what. We've got a stat stack to help you through the difficult times, of which it's being suggested to us. Looking at the peloton right now, it's Orica Green Edge with Tinkoff, as you can see. Movistar also engaged with the chase, as are Lampre. If it is Lampre, it'll be Diego Ulizi, will be their chosen man. Not as quick as he used to be, but still pacey enough, especially in this company. I beg your pardon. So, González Linares, he won in the punk years, 72 to 78. Actually, 72 was more the Deep Purple years, wasn't it? But yes. Anyway, Alberto Contador, of course, started assembling his victories and took 3 in 2008, 9 and 14. And Sean Kelly should be on this list as well. Toby Rominger is also part of it. There he is. 92, 3 and 4. And of course the 80s, which we've already discussed. There he is, King Kelly. 84, 86 and 87. So 3 wins for the King himself. Some bad news for Movistar. Gastroenteritis is not a pleasant thing, and it can strike down at any time. In fact, you can kind of pass it on depending on which form. But anyway, the Izaguirre brothers are a bit crook. It's not good, is it?
No, definitely not very good for the Movistar team. You know, they're 2 solid riders, and I mean, they could have done with them in the team, there's no doubt about that.
There's been a lot of illness going around, Magnus, and I know you've suffered yourself with debilitating virus that essentially knocked you off the bike for quite some time last year.
Well, it definitely took me almost a whole year to sort of get to some sort of okay level again. Still not feeling 100%.
Did you ever find out what it was?
No, never did.
Yeah, just a nasty lingerer.
Yeah.
You know, it happens, I'm afraid, and unfortunately it happened to you, Magnus, right at the end of your what turned out to be the closing of your triathlon.
Well, it turned out to be, so yeah.
Which bit of the triathlon are you not missing?
The getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, go training.
No, I meant the swimming, the running, or the riding. The swimming, I suspect.
No, I did. I actually enjoyed the swimming. I think I enjoyed all of it, to be honest with you. It was more the fact that you're trying to cram in 35 hours of training in an already kind of full-on week of working, commentating, and doing everything else. You know, that tended to be. It was a bit hard.
Well, there we are. Well, he's off the competitive bike, but of course still very much engaged with the world of cycling, not only commentating, but of course Magnus Baxter has his own training scheme these days, and it's probably worth having a look at. Is there room for any veterans?
I'll sort you out, Carlton. Yeah.
Thanks, mate. It'll take a lot of sorting out. 46.7 kilometres to go then. Still plenty of climbs along the way, Magnus. Do you care to make a selection? I know it's a long way out, but everyone is staying more or less together. I think we are going to be in for a quick one at the end here.
Yeah, I think you're right there, and I think it's going to be between Simon Gerrans and Tony Galopin, and I'm actually going to go with Galopin.
Are you?
Yes. Controversial.
Nice. Yeah, well, moderately.
Moderately controversial.
Yes, exactly. But yes, Togo for Lotto Soudal might well press that button. I think Simon Gerrans is pretty handy, but I'm going to go a bit left field. I'm going to go for Bilbao for Caio Rural, led out by Jose González, just because I think they're up for it, and yeah. I think if they're gonna have a chance, it's today. And the way that they have muscled a few stages in the past, Caio Rural, I think they'll go all in just for today. we'll see. Welcome back. Just shy of 45 kilometres to go, as you can see, and the road surface, as Magnus was saying, some of it's reasonably grippy, as we are seeing right now. Some of it's extremely smooth and can catch you out. I guess they repair the surfaces here when the local communities have got the money, and you never quite know. I think what you're getting surface-wise is you're quite rightly saying, Magnus, it does vary, doesn't it? A lot, even within a few kilometres.
Yeah, it definitely does, and certainly on the climbs as well, depending on how many vehicles are going up it and how the corners are done as well. If you've got trucks going up there, they tend to sort of almost smoothen out the tarmac and make it extremely slippery if you get a bit of dampness onto them as well. So yeah, it can be tricky up here to cope with the descent.
Yes, not what you want. Sudden sort of surface shocks. Welcome back. We're just heading to the top of Sant Euphemia. I think that was a gentleman actually, but I might be wrong. And I wonder if it's where we get euphemism from. I don't know. But there we are. And if you want to go here and you haven't got your bike, you can reach the old Hermitage, and I'm hoping we're going to fly over it. It's not very big. I guess because not many people make the trip, but it's 200 steps carved into the mountainside as opposed to laid in concrete. So foothold may well be a problem, but if you make it, then of course you can join the firmament. Markina Shemen is where we are. It's the Basque Country. It's the 56th edition of the race, which has been going since 1924 when Pelissier did his stuff up here. Hello. A little bit of a broken surface, and we've got a pennant man right there. Everyone's guided round it rather nicely, and everyone wants to sort of have a look at today. Options for today for Tinkoff, if you had to look deep in, and it's not just about protecting Alberto Contador, who do you think might just squirrel off the nose?
Well, Sergio Poligno is always being relatively fast. But I mean, I think they're all here to really look at looking after Contador. They got Kreuziger here, they got Kieselowski's here as well. I guess one of the youngsters there as well, Jesper Hansen or Mikkel Wahlgren, are certainly capable and probably more keen on doing something on the stage like today, whereas Contador, he'll want to stay safe and out of trouble, and then sort of take the race by the scruff of the neck when we get into the slightly more difficult climbs. Well, I've gone for a wide left fielder with Bilbao. If I'm going to go for somebody who's often under the radar, but is amongst, to my mind anyway, those real contenders today, it would be Simon Clark actually, for Cannondale. I thought he'd go brilliantly on Milan-San Remo, and he had a fantastic chance to do exactly that, but unfortunately got tagged on one of the hairpins very, very late on. Heartbreak for me, and indeed for Cy Clark, who was stricken standing at the side of the race on a day that I think he had a great chance of a top five, and the way it panned out, it could have gone even higher than that. What with chains being dropped and riders getting balked and others falling all over the place. Unfortunately, one of them was Cy Clark, but he's got a chance to make amends today. Well, I think he's one of the guys that we should keep an extra eye on. There's no doubt about that. But Michael Woods as well is a man who certainly is pretty handy. Factor in Tom Yelter-Slactor as well. They've got a good run in, haven't they? Yeah, they do. I guess we've got to look at how this race has been run in the last 40 odd kilometres, and certainly in the last 10 kilometres. The final couple of climbs are going to be the key factor as to how the outcome is going to be a sprint, and in what case, how is that? How many riders we're having into that sprint, and who's left out of sort of the slightly faster guys? Well, it's quite a rude start, isn't it? 8 climbs, to be honest, and the last 2 climbs, category 1 and then 2 to finish off the day, and the backside
savers, as you can see, are doing their job. I haven't seen these being used for quite some time, and the road doesn't seem wet enough, but clearly enough for that to be used.
If you looking at some pictures from earlier on today, it's certainly been pretty damp, to say the least. And as much as you're still getting spray on you if you're sitting, and certainly if you're sitting in a bunch, the front wheels of other rides are flicking water forward and flicking it up on you, so you're still getting wet. But there's something quite nice about not having that spray straight up your backside all the time for what could end up being 6 hours in a day.
Well, maybe they know the weather forecast, and we are due for a downpour. They said there was a 60% chance today of it raining throughout the entire stage. I think a lot of riders got dressed exactly for that. They have been through some pretty wet stuff, haven't they, Magnus?
They certainly have. It pretty horrendous weather this morning when they set off, and I guess that's why we're seeing the guys having a fair amount of wet weather gear with them or on them still.
Yes, if the weather is variable, you need to carry it, and that can be a bit of a distraction, to be honest. Minute and 17 is the gap that they're holding. I think they're doomed, Magnus, especially as they're getting quite argumentative with each other, apart from anything else.
Well, I think it's just who's going to pick up the points on these climbs, and by the looks of things, Lastra here in the green, he's not doing an awful lot of work, but seems to manage to find the energy to outsprint the other two when they're getting towards the top of it.
Indeed. Just having a look at look down here as well. Ferreira da Costa, of course, Portuguese champion for Lampre. Diego Lucy is their chosen man. Harada Moreno Visconti for Movistar. Albacini, Simon Gerrans, the first choice for Orica Greenedge. We're talking about today, by the way. The aforementioned Tom Yelter-Slagter, Michael Woods and Cy Clark for Cannondale in their lime green. Expect them to start to play a few games a little bit later on. Tony Gallopin, who's Magnus' choice today for Lotto Soudal, a great one. In fact, he could go very well in this entire race, Tony Gallopin. He's that kind of powerful guy who rolls well, and I don't think the rolling time trial at the end of today will have any fears for him. At the end of the stage, I should say. The end of the race, stage 6.
We'll get there soon.
I did in the end. Yeah. A few curves. Arthur Vichot, a fast man for Francis Dejeux. Just wondering actually if there's anybody else in there for him today. Steve Cummings, I think, is always a sly card to play, and it's great that he's embedded within Team Dimension data team. That includes Serge Pauwels as well, and Tekla Hamanot is also here, of our Eritrean friend who usually goes well on this kind of peaks. In fact, it's was it Tekla Hamanot who went well in the King of the Mountains competition, or am I mistaken? Yeah. There we are, in the Tour de France. So yeah, sort of picking them up may well be a feature of some of the breaks out here today. But Dan Martin has got to have some options within this race. Whether it's today or not, I'm not sure, Magnus.
Well, I think it's too early for Dan. Dan is here, I think, with a view of riding general classification by the end of the week, and with that, he's going to have a just keep some powder dry and not just go for individual stages. Yes, it's good fun and it's good for your general classification to a certain extent to go after these stages, but certain days you just got to think twice about what you're doing.
Lastra of Caio Rural, just distanced by Nico Ede, as you can see on this climb. Well, it was clear that Nicolas Ede was arguing about the lack of sharing of the climbs. I'm just wondering whether Lastra can get back to him before this one. Doesn't look like he's going to make it. There we are. So Ede crosses the line now, takes the points he was aggrieved not to get last time by. I don't know whether Lastra was put back in his box, but he looked like he's starting to struggle just a little bit. And no surprise, they've been up the road for much of the day, Magnus.
They certainly have been, and it's difficult to ride out there in the breakaway on a day like today. You never really find a good rhythm, and you tend to just have to ride to someone else's pace going up the hills and down the hills, and it's just stressful on your body and mentally as well to a certain extent.
Thanks to Jim Muttram, of course I meant cassock as opposed to hassock. A hassock, a cushion you kneel on in church. A cassock is what you wear, traditionally made of sort of quite rough wool. That was all part of the getting in touch with whatever your humble side by wearing essentially a very rough felt, presumably quite itchy coverall.
You mean you haven't got one?
No, I haven't. No, not my cup of tea. Movistar here. It's good to see as well Contador being well protected. Quintana too. They don't want to make any mistakes today. They don't want any big gaps which may well be sustained on such a race. And in fact, it's only 1:17 with 40 to go. I think those who are minded to do something proper in this race overall for the title just don't want to throw it away on a day like this. And it's easy to do, Magnus, when you've got so many climbs crammed into what is only 144 kilometres. 8 climbs in 144. We're either going up or down, it seems, throughout the day.
Well, that's very much the case. There's hardly any flat in between, and that, like I said, it just makes it very difficult. Both in terms of your energy expenditure, but also in terms of trying to eat and refuel yourself. Concentration level that always has to remain high because of the tricky descents and relatively narrow roads down here as well, and certainly up in the hills.
When you haven't got much to play with in the mountains, why not just cut down the mountain and sell it? There we are.
Why not?
There's a lot of that gone on here.
They forgot that there was a road in the middle as well, so they had to stop.
Do you know, I used to know somebody who worked in a quarry, and they had a stone returned to them by an insurance company which had actually caved in a roof about 1.5 miles away from the quarry site. They'd got their blast grade wrong. There we are. That was a long time ago up in Sheffield. Well, Derbyshire actually, but anyway, we digress. Back in a moment. Welcome back. We're just passing through the Polonio industrial area of Echeverria. Next up, the Alto Ichua.
Bless you.
Thank you. That'll be with 25.9 kilometres to go. And it's our first of the race, categorised 1 climb. So it's going to be a proper test. The Ichua.
Oh, bless you.
8.5% is the maximum. 7% its average grade, but it goes over 6.5 kilometres. This is going to be a bit of a leg sapper so early on. It's a bit unkind.
Yeah, I mean, it's not overly long, but yes, the last couple of kilometres are certainly relatively steep. 8.7%, yeah, that is steep. Still quite a long way to the finish, so wonder whether we're going to see any action.
Potentially a pivotal point of the day today, well, right now, because we've got a long descent to the final climb. The breakaway has only got a minute, as you can see, and the last two oh no, little bit of it's a pinch point on the road, as you can see. I think there's a gully underneath. This is a little river crossing bridge, designed to take the wetness away from the locale, but unfortunately this pinch point and the bridge looks like it wasn't actually guarded or warned about, and somebody's got into the wall, bounced back into everybody else, and that's what you're seeing right now. And that is Christophe Riblon. Likewise, that's Belkadri who's just getting back on the bike. These two still arguing.
Jaime Zabeldia and Kielreinen as well.
Not good, not good. There's haranguing. Do you know what? I think there'll be some words later on. Probably a representative from Cairo Oral will be visiting Cofidis Credit Solutions and having a word about the words that have been had. 35.2 kilometres to go. You just got to get on with it, for goodness sake. Riders have got their own agenda. I never really understand the haranguing and the losing of rag.
Well, when you're sitting on a road like this and you're doing all of the work, and you've got a guy with you who tends to sort of just nip and take the points away from the king of the mountains or intermediate sprint and whatever, and then not take another turn again, yeah, you tend to get. Let's see if we can see the sprint.
There's the pinch.
Yeah.
There's the wall. Somebody had to tag it. And indeed, it was just there was just no road space, quite frankly. Simple as that. It was a narrowing onto the bridge, and it didn't look like there was anybody there to warn them. But I guess they possibly thought it'd be more strung out at a moment such as this. More of a traffic jam than anything else.
Yeah, I think you're right there, and it's just a guy, the riders deciding that they don't want to brake, and yeah, they all got right away.
Yes, exactly. And they all got their just desserts, unfortunately, for but that's unkind. But yes, a pinch point nonetheless. It probably did exist in a road book, but not one that we've seen. So it's just a perfect example of what can catch you out at any moment. If that had come late in the race, we could have had an Ejidal moment. During the 2012 Giro d'Italia, they attacked, and everyone was going, why are they attacking? And it was a long descent with a narrow bridge at the bottom of it. And they got through, everyone else got boxed in, and the rest is history. Off went rider Ejidal to take it, the title ultimately, with the time gained there off his main rivals.
Yeah, and I guess that's just a smart racing at the end of the day. But I think sometimes, you know, these kind of the road conditions, the roads that they're riding on, the guys need to be paying attention to where they are, what's going on, what's coming up, and so on. And you can't warn them for everything. You know, the health and safety can't be out on the road all the time, and it's up to the guys to make qualified decisions as to what they're doing and how they're doing. Marcel Wyss is here now, standing on the side of the road.
He is some kind of technical issue, but it's more than that. He's in absolutely no hurry to move on, and he's the principal rider, don't forget, for I Am Cycling. He found himself in the break, and that looks like job done.
And these guys are still having a good chat.
They are, yes. They've struck each other off the Christmas card list. We're just heading to the Alto Ichua, 25.9 from the line. There is the categorised 1. In fact, they've just rolled through the wrong graphic a few moments ago. So let me just tell you about this climb. It's just over 6 kilometres in length. The steepest part is just before the top, but there is a midsection as well, which equals it in terms of incline, over 8%. It's average at 7%, but it's quite a long climb. They generally tend to be quite punchy here in this hilly terrain, but they can be quite focused as well. And the testiest inclines that we have dealt with today, and it's, I guess you could say it could be a great launch pad, because if you get over the top of this, Magnus, by the time you reach the foot of it, you've got one more climb to do, naturally enough, but you're about 20 k's, a little bit less than that, from home. It's worth having a go, surely, on this climb, or potentially at least.
Well, I think that it could provide a couple of good attacks. Maybe not from the biggest favourites, but certainly a couple of the guys are just behind that who are more looking for a potential opportunity to surprise the big leaders. You never know what's going to happen on these kind of climbs, and how the racing is feeling in the bunch as well. It's kind of getting that. But look at, you got Lampre coming up here now, as well as Lotto Jumbo, Orica Green Edge, Movistar up here, Sky coming up on the side as well. So it's all kind of drag racing into the bottom of the climb.
It's almost a lockdown as well of the roads. It's so wide across, isn't it?
Yeah, but the interesting bit with when it gets like this, when you've got teams drag racing each other to try and get into the bottom of a climb first, effectively, by the time you get there, everyone's gone so hard, so everyone's tired, and then it just slows down, and everyone rides up next to each other.
Here we are, our argumentative pair. Lastra, by the way, of Cairo is a youngster. He's only just turned 22. Longer in the tooth and wider of experience, Nico Ede, 28 years of age now, the Frenchman. And frankly, he just wants some help from the young legs and from the young man, which he's not getting for the time being. 32 k's to go now. They'll go up reasonably quickly, one suspects, on this climb. It is categories 1, but the long descent that they'll take from it is about 8 kilometres in length, so it's longer than the climb itself. Short flat section, categorised to finish off the day, and then the run for the line.
Yeah, the run for the line is going to be an interesting one today.
We've done the Alto San Miguel. It's only categorised 2. That's the final climb. I suggest it's possibly going to be a bit more punishing because of the pace they'll take into it. Somebody, I think, is going to try and launch something off this. The general classification men and their teams, they want to lock down Magnus. They don't really want anyone to skip away and spoil the fun. They want a big punch up over the next 6 days with their principles. They don't want anyone spoiling it. Somebody who's given to having a go at a moment like this.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Colton. But yet again, I think there's so many of the other teams here that, well, certainly are 2 very, very strong favourite teams for today's stage in Lotto Soudal and Orica Green Edge, certainly in my book anyway. Yes, we have a couple of other teams that certainly got fast men, and one of the guys that we saw earlier, Kiel Reinen, is certainly a man that would potentially be able to be in the mix here today, as long as he gets back into the back of the bunch and recovers going up this relatively hard climb, to be fair.
It is, there it is, maximum at 8.7, and it's certainly the most difficult section is right at the very last.
Yeah, it certainly is. But I think we should see a couple of the teams getting together and trying to get this to a bunch kick.
Well, here we are. It's certainly looking that way. We weren't expecting. We thought maybe a select group, but the way that this is being policed is quite remarkable, just for the time being. Sky haven't really seen too much of them today, but then again, keeping their nose out of the wind is a good thing. These guys still being lent on is Nicolas Ede. He's not happy about it. There's 30 seconds to go, and he's going to say a few words, I imagine, by the time this one draws to a close. Unless, of course, he guides up Lastra of Kaya Roral. Ede guides him up. If Lastra dares to come by on this Category 1, I just expect handbags. There we are, to be drawn at dawn. Ede has just pulled away, and here we are. This is your big move. Cataldo decides to go long today, and why not? We said it could be a launch pad, Magnus, and this is the first roll of the dice. It's a proper one as well. Nobody minded to follow him.
No, definitely not. And Cataldo is a strong rider, and a rider I think would actually be capable of winning a race like this if they let him go, and certainly get a certain amount of advantage going into the next couple of stages. But this also puts a fair amount of pressure on the other teams now, and leaves Fabio Aru sitting in a much better position going up this climb.
Do you know what? I was expecting somebody to at least have a go at tracing him. Maybe someone like Geske, who's a great sort of powerhouse and a good breakaway rider as well at a moment such as this. But he's alone. That said, he can do this because the terrain's going to come to him, Magnus. If he just crests this one after about 118 Ks of racing today, look at that. No response from anyone behind him. He could have his fun, you know.
Yeah, he definitely can, as long as he judges his efforts going up the early parts of this climb, because like you said, it just gets steeper and steeper, kilometre by kilometre, up until the very last. And it is a relatively long climb still, you know, 6.2 kilometres, so you got to make sure that you gauge your effort. But I think Cataldo's experienced enough to do this right. Straight by.
Are these guys, is he going to ask them to get on his wheel? Not a bit of it. Is he on heartbreaking mode? Well, Ede is capable of going with him, and that's bye-bye to Lastra, I think. Cataldo just in punishing mode, and that's Cairo Ral's Lastra's chance gone now, I'm afraid. Nico Ede staying with him. Brave effort by him. But this is a bid for glory by Dario Cataldo, and indeed the leader's jersey at the end of today.
Yeah, it's already got around about 25 seconds.
Wow.
So it's been a strong attack by Cataldo.
Very strong attack indeed, and he's burying himself here. And as you can see, he's keeping the pressure on, staying in the seat, getting more of the drive where it needs to be. Ede far less comfortable and just coming out of the saddle, getting back in it again. He doesn't look like he's in an overly happy place, and he won't be as well now, knowing that he's put in a lot of effort today. Sky just rolling to the fore, as you can see, with 4 riders in a line, including Vasyl Kirienka. Kirienka, great time trial, is not bad as well when it comes to inclines. I don't know, maybe Kirienka could be sort of a bit of a dark horse. It's all about Michael Landa and Sergio Anau, who are most explosive. And guess what? Kaya Roral decide to re-engage. Not, of course, with Lastra.
That's Madrazo going out of the bunch there for...
seen him do it before as well, haven't we, Magnus?
Yeah.
Likes a moment such as this, and joining the fun, Lamprey also. That's not Louis Meintjes, surely. I didn't quite get along enough. Looked too big for him, but maybe mistaken. Let's have a look in a few moments' time when we get a better look. But Cataldo, head of the race, and suddenly the alarm bells have gone off, and those who thought they might get something out of today, had a battle plan, they've had to change the script because one man has already started writing it very, very early here. Good work by this pairing, and it is Petilli who's gone with him from Lamprey. Yes, just a far bigger frame than Louis Meintjes, a taller man. Arm flicks out, come and give me a little bit of help, but helping himself out front is Dario Cataldo at the moment. He'll be over the top before you know it, Magnus, and then that is going to be a difficult time. Sebastian and now comes and joins up from Team Sky. Ethics also in the fray, and now the breakdown has happened, and that's Giovanni Visconti. Now he's a quick man at the end. He could be a real danger. If this group becomes a select one, he's your man.
Yeah, he's certainly a very fast finisher, and they got Carlos Verona in here as well from Ethics Quick Step, like you just said. But yeah, Visconti very, very quick in the finish, and obviously a handy climber as well.
So there we are. This has now become a very select group, and our breakaway has drawn to a close with the last man from it, Nicolas Ede. Head of the race, you're looking at him right now, it's Dario Cataldo. He's gone for a long one. There's some pretty handy chasers on his case, I'm afraid, and the alarm bells for him will be ringing, because very, very handy man at the end. Giovanni Visconti is also part of this group, not that far away from the pack, who've changed the pace.
Well, there's certainly been a response in the front end of the bunch here, and it's Orica Greenedge doing all the work. Madrazo, though, decides to have another go. He's not happy with that.
No, he'll dig in for glory if he possibly can, and that's precisely what he's done. But is it sustainable? That's an entirely other question. And indeed, when you've got others chasing you down like this, it must feel like an anchor. 28.5 to go. Do you think Cataldo's going to make this?
It's too early to tell, I think, but he's certainly doing a very good job in keeping it going.
I guess
the key is going to come in the next kilometre or so, where when it starts getting really steep, whether he can actually keep the pace going, and what happens down the back.
The technical descent as well, Magnus.
Yeah.
We've talked about we've had some light rain, and that's almost more dangerous than if it had been full-on rain and washed the surface. And as you can see, there's patches here of darkness that he's going to have to watch out for. Aston are pretty handy descenders, and he's a pretty good one himself, and I think that's what he's minded. He's got that really as a sort of a personal mental, psychological piece of insurance to take this on, which is why we suggested that somebody would go for it on the penultimate climb. But it's about the descent and how much gap he gets onto the final climb, is it not?
Yeah, that's definitely the key thing here. So Beldia's on his way trying to get back in again after having had that little issue with the crash. Looking like he's definitely working quite hard.
It is a tough day to work here. Camera's not really got its stability lock on at the moment. Cannondale have got their options today. I thought, to be honest, that Simon Clark would be a great call. They got Michael Woods and they got Tom Yelter-Slagter as well, who would have been tempted into this kind of finish that's going to be offered up. But Visconti, I think, was too much of a danger, and everyone rolled up to him. Right now, still out front, we've got Cataldo. Cataldo, you know, it was a few years ago now, he took himself a stage on the Vuelta. He's not a bad time trialist either. In fact, he was national champion back in 2012. And setting a tempo at a moment like this is a very, very useful thing. So being a good time trialist and good up the peaks and troughs, he's actually a danger overall, quite frankly, especially as Fabio Aru, their principal rider, is not on song at the moment. Chance for the workhorses, if you like, to take their chance.
Yeah, definitely. There's an opportunity for Cataldo, and I think on these particular races, you're not always looking at the super favourites to have a go. Sometimes you're better off. Well, sometimes you want to get the what shall we call them, helpers to have a proper go.
Well, they need to have their stage occasionally. This is Vieira that we're looking at, who's engaging the chase. Astana just coming to the fore, just trying to police everybody else around him. It looks like Cataldo is going to have a shot at this. When he won that stage on the Vuelta, it was up to the Valgrande Parges Ciuto Negro, which is the VPCN, as far as I'm concerned. He beat Thomas again that day, Joaquim Rodriguez, Contador, Valverde, Quintana, etc. He went on a break, and in fact he was 7 seconds clear. It was an uphill finish at the end, so he can climb, he can time trial, and he can have a party. He's got 14 seconds at the moment. Doesn't sound like much. It was enough for Sagan yesterday. Well, but there you go.
Although somewhat closer to the finish and slightly different terrain.
True enough, I'll give you that.
But Cataldo certainly working well, and it looks like he's still holding a good pace here. But Villela on his way back up towards Cataldo.
Well, VA himself is no slouch, as you can see, and he's doing more than a decent job. AG Tour Le Mondial, and some of those teams as well, and indeed riders like Luis Angel Mate, just thinking, well, have I blown this? They've got plenty of time to get back at their man. 16 seconds. If you've got a decent descent on you, you could form a select breakaway. It looks like that's what we've got reassembling before our very eyes.
Yeah, well, the thing is that they're going to need a reasonable gap when they get to the top, because otherwise the bunch will just travel that much quicker down the mountain. And with that, I think I have a feeling that we're going to start the final climb all together, and then it's going to be a proper battle there.
Well, let's hope that that's exactly the case. That's Wilco Kelderman, by the way, and he, ahead of this race, along with Robert Jessink within his team at Lotto Jumbo, is certainly one of those who could bid for the title. And I think that underscores exactly what Cataldo's doing up the road at the moment. Kelderman's thinking, well, if it's not going to be Rob Jessink, it may as well be me. If you've got two principal riders who have a chance overall, then you can use one of them at a moment such as this.
Yeah, well, certainly can. But Kelderman, when he's on top form, he's certainly a rider who's capable of actually winning this race, and you know they're getting out there and they're giving it well, should we call it, they're riding in aid for their team leader, but at the same time, should things play out in the right way, then they're still capable of pulling it off, and they just swap the leader.
Precisely, and that's a lucky and a great situation to be in. Same deal for Sky. They've got Sergio Arnau, very explosive, and of course Michael Landa. They've also got Phil Dynion, nice to see him here. Sebastian Arnau, the aforementioned. Vasil Kirienka, big powerhouse. David Lopez, Lars Peder Nordhaug, and Xavi Zandio. So yeah, they've got plenty of options, and I think the best teams most certainly do. Roman Kreuziger is backing up Alberto Contador should something go wrong. We've got Simon Spilak who's backing up Joaquim Rodriguez should something go wrong. It may well be that Spilak is the favoured rider actually within that team, despite the fact that Rodriguez has won.
Well, yeah, and obviously with Team Katusha, you're mentioning Spilak and Rodriguez, but you also got Jürgen van den Broek in there as well, who's certainly no slouch.
Very much so. So being able to, I guess when it's only 6 days as well, 5 days of road racing, and then we've got the time trial, the individual time trial to finish off this tour of the Basque Country. You can play around with the strategy. It's a very different way of approaching a race than, let's say, a Grand Tour 3 weeks in length. You don't have to hold too much back to pace yourself within it. You can kind of go for it early, and that's what we've got today.
Yeah, you can certainly do, but I think if you're looking at just about every stage race that's been done throughout the year, even the opening stage is always hard fought, and everyone gives it a go because it's a chance of an early glory and wearing the yellow jersey for a day.
Well, this race itself was very much regarded as a preparation race, but it's become a standalone event in itself that's well worth winning.
Oh, definitely. In my book, anyway, any bike race is worth winning because it's always difficult to win. And it looks like Warren Barguil is just going to have a go and pop out the group
just,
there.
Rolled off the front for Giant Alpecin. Just saw this group going away and thinking this is the main selection. Kai Roral are also going for it, and I think that's Gonçalves that's having a look. It may well be Bilbao himself. They're shredding as they come to the top, and first man over will be Dario Cataldo. So he'll take the Category 1 climb, and then he's going to engage in a descent, and it's going to be an important one for him. Let's tell you about it. It's reasonably technical. The descent does not actually end, although it does become a little bit flatter, less acute, if you like, the angle, to the foot of the final climb. But that final climb is an absolute beast. It's the Alto San Miguel. It's only categorised 2. Many would say it probably deserves to be the highest classification. And going off, Vieira wants to re-engage the chase because he can see that he's helping to assemble a fighting force, and that would be a battle he maybe wouldn't win. So he's going alone. And look how many of the bigger names are actually going for this. They don't want to lose out at a moment such as that's Contador chasing. I think Quintana's on his tail.
Yeah, you're very, very much right there. And that's an interesting one, actually, that Contador is having a go out the bunch there. He kind of feels like there's an opportunity to put a bit of pressure on some people going down this. But right now, I think we're going to need this motorbike to move out of the way a little bit further, because when...
Oh, that corner is an absolute terror. You'd expect at least a couple of mattresses to have been strapped to those trees. Let's hope everyone gets down it's nice and safely. This is going to be high-speed entertainment for us, and some squeaky moments for these guys. You're going to hear the brakes squeal.
Well, you certainly will do. So certainly when you're descending this kind of roads, and a lot of the time down here it tends to be relatively wide open for a long period of time. You build up some incredible speeds, and then all of a sudden the chuck is real tight turn, and you've got to get on the anchors and stop very, very quickly.
Perfect example, just as you were saying it, Magnus, of the road just tightening up. The curbs, the camber is not bad, but look at that, threading
Beautiful.
it. I wonder how much he knows this road, because he's actually riding it as if it's his home.
I don't think he knows. It's all a question of, when you're descending, reading the mountains, reading the actual terrain, reading what angles are the tree standing at, what angles are the barriers looking at. How can you trying to work out where the road is about to disappear to.
This is a quality piece of descending. We know Astana as a team are very good at this, and this man here, Cataldo, is absolutely threading it, beautifully so. Having the confidence, Magnus, to look further ahead than just down at the road surface immediately in front of you. It is a natural skill that some riders just seem to have. Others can learn, but they never seem to get as close as they maybe would want to the naturals.
No, that's very, very much right in terms of some riders have that ability. They don't really think about the potential mishaps that can happen. They just live in the moment and race it, and they have this ability to kind of almost slow down the world around them so that they get more time to react, and they can read more information around them, and with that make better qualified decisions as to how quickly you can take every corner, what's the grip level, where's the wind coming in from, is that going to affect me if when I'm leaning the bike over, and so on. So
20 seconds is what Cataldo has got for the time being, and as you can see, having joined the front group, Alberto Contador, we're just hovering in on him right there, as you can see. I think Aru might also be here, unless that's Lopez. There is Quintana, though, most certainly. And a lot of other principals, including Sammy Sanchez, don't want to be left out. And so this is going to hurt the chances of Dario Cataldo. I don't know whether they're going to let him back off the leash, but there's been a reassembly. Those who were chasing have been caught by these fantastic descending skills of some of the principal players in some of the Grand Tours that we're going to be enjoying live here on Eurosport, your home of cycling this season. Looking at the head of the race at the moment, Dario Cataldo has still got 19 seconds. He's held this well, but it's a big ask for him to go all the way now with the quality of the chasers that he has. He's coming to the less accented angles of this descent, where it flattens out just a little bit. Still got some roller coasters to go, and the pennant man's doing a bit of rock and roll here. I'm not quite sure what tune he's got going on in his head, but here we are. This man is that's a nasty curve, especially with the concrete barriers. Not a soft landing if you get that wrong. And let's hope he goes well. We're going to take ourselves a commercial break now. It flattens down just a bit, and then the race will be on for our final climb up the Alto de San Miguel. This is quite a chase, Magnus. Exciting stuff for a finale.
It certainly is. It's going to be interesting to watch the final 20 kilometres.
cannot wait. We'll keep an eye on it. We'll be back with you in just a few moments. My, this man is determined. Cataldo's got 34 seconds, and it's all down to this descent. I don't think they've knocked it back behind him. I just don't think they've got the same capabilities on this descent, and maybe the same motivation. He's absolutely storming this.
He definitely is. He's taking all the risks, but also very committed and looking strong out there, to the point where the actual lead cars were struggling to get out of his way.
Alarm bells going on, as you can see behind, and it's Cannondale as well. Michael Woods, Cy Clark, Tom Yelter-Slagter don't want to miss out on today. I think they're doing a lot of the chasing, as you can see. I think Simon Clark, very, very good option. .5 kilometres to go. The gap is 34 seconds. Now, I think when you left us for the break, it was about 14 seconds. Now, that shows you just what a capable descender Dario Cataldo is. It also tells you that the chase has been knocked back a bit, and it's clear from what we're seeing right now, despite the fact that Cannondale didn't want to miss out. I think Simon Clark had a big option today, maybe Michael Woods as well. Another very quick man. Tom Yelter-Slagter likewise. So they will have seen the terrain, thought, this is our kind of day, and the men in the lime green of Cannondale have felt aggrieved. They're doing most of the pushing, but the question is, can they catch the lone rider Dario Cataldo, who has done an absolutely supreme descent? They've still got a little bit of downhill before they finally kick up for our last test, the Alto de San Miguel. A climb, you know, Magnus, and it's a proper one, isn't it? It's only category 2. The only reason it's categorized 2 is because it's a good deal shorter. It does flatten out at the peak. It includes an area of only 3%, but 7.6, it's not that far off percentage-wise of what we've just dealt with.
No, it certainly isn't, and it's not actually that much shorter either. We're only talking a kilometre less, so it's a difficult climb. Cataldo here really doing a good job, but I think what Cannondale are currently up to is just working hard, but not really going over the top, certainly not on the flatter parts here. They just want to make sure that Cataldo's out there, and they're slowly but surely bringing him in second by second, and ideally catching Cataldo somewhere sort of halfway up the final climb.
Well, it's a dangerous game that they may well be engaged in, because they can draw in a whole load of others, but they're sending the firepower to the fore, and they mean business. This is not for Pierre Rolland, by the way. It's for their fast men. So yeah, take your pick from them. My pick of the three would be Simon Clark, who has got himself absolutely beautifully prepared for Milan-San Remo. Got knocked off on a final hairpin where I think he would have had a huge option. Very long odds for that as well. I think a couple of 100 to 1. But he's a strong guy. So is Michael Woods, as you pointed out. Very feisty contender. That says 37 seconds. I don't think it's quite as much as that, I've got to tell you, but Cataldo, nonetheless, has laid his stall out. He's got no other strategy, just to keep on spinning this one.
Well, I think he's doing a bit more than spinning. There's an awful lot of power going into that bike at the moment. There's no question. And he wants to have a good gap going into the final climb, but at the same time, he can't be sitting at 100% effort. All the way into the final climb. He needs to have a little bit left in his legs just to take that, especially that first kilometre or so, which is so difficult to deal with. And if you're looking at all the riders that are sort of hovering near the front of that bunch, I think the final time up the San Miguel here is going to be an absolute perler.
I think he's got a great advantage with this climb, and that's the first section of it, which is categorised is only 3.7%. The tough bit comes right at the very foot of it. So as soon as he's got over that, it starts to ease. Goes 7.6, 6.3, 5.2, 5.1, and then in his mind, he's going to think he's nearly there. He's got another technical descent. We've already know about his descending skills, and then he's got a time trial to the line for about the last 3.5 kilometres. It's pretty flat, nothing too technical, but look at the pace that's being engaged by the chasers right now.
This is what's going to hurt Cataldo out there when they all start chasing for position, because right now it's It's a big drag race between Cannondale, Team Sky, Trek-Sig, Freda up there, Orica are up there as well. Everyone wants to get into the bottom of this climb, right at the very, very front of it. And yeah, Movistar moving up on the left-hand side now with Nairo Quintana in second wheel.
Indeed, it is Cy Clark with the aero helmet on, by the way, for Cannondale, which suggests he's going to be going for a quick one. The transition to a much narrower road, and then they'll make the turn onto the final climb before you know it. This is going to be a fascinating one. If he does get caught, it could be a heartbreak moment, but don't be surprised if he goes all the way, and you're just going to have to keep it here to find out whether he makes it. He'll be at the top with 8.3 kilometres to go. He's just come through Egobar, and this is it. Up the Aitsti. Isn't that a rap star? Anyway, he's going to be at the top before you know it, and then we've got that downhill run to the line. Look at the panic behind. These are teams who realise that they've had a chance today and it's being snatched or at least controlled for the time being by Dario Cataldo, and they want to wrestle control from him.
They certainly do. With that Jelle van Endert going out in an attack from the peloton there for Lotte Soudal in the red, being followed by one of the Sky riders and a Cannondale rider as well. So I think, you know, I just wonder how long Dario Cataldo can hold this for, because a climb bit fun like Van Endert in there together with
Pierre Roland, it is
Phil Degnan, it is as well. That's following there. So yeah.
Well, Diagon's no slouch in a moment such as this. Pierre Roland, we know can climb, although he blows very, very hot and cold. You'd kind of think if this was an uphill finish, he'd probably have a chance here, Pierre Roland, but I'm not really sure about his own descending capabilities. Moving over from Europe car, not a bad descender, but you used to say the same thing about Tommy Vogler before he ended up going for a barbecue once on the Tour de France. So yeah, you have to take your chances where you get them. This is definitely a chance for Pierre Roland, for Diagnan, and of course for Jelle van Endert as well, and they are trying to take it.
Well, they certainly are. They've gone for the attack and gone for the move to see whether they can bridge across to Cataldo, and I think they can just about spot him up there on the climb itself. But where is the bunch and what are they doing? Katusha coming up.
Yes, they are coming up, and they want to have a piece of today, and this is Chernetsky as well, yes, who's spinning it. Big solid lump of a guy, Chernetsky, but he can go quickly at the end if he needs to.
Yeah, I'd say he's one of these riders that tends to pedal more on power when he's doing his climbing rather than the high revs.
Well, we'll see how he pans out at the end if he manages to latch on. We haven't got a distance marker, unfortunately, because it looks like the data has been knocked out and the chase is still going on. This man is now starting to ease into the climb. It's getting easier for him. Once he gets over the peak, Magnus, it's not that far from home, and most of it is downhill descent all the way.
It's a good descent down towards the finish, quite a technical one at that, and then even the final run into the finish, although. Yeah, it's not super technical, but it's not easy.
He's going to have I think, a similar gap that he had on the last descent. Now, this one is a shorter descent, but I think he may well be able to expand it from, let's say, 14 seconds. We're guessing what the gap is going to be. We'll do a sort of a thumb check when we get to the top, timing-wise, because we've got no timing, unfortunately, to tell us what the gap is definitively. And it's been knocked back behind. And again, this is the same scenario. Cataldo is off the leash. Somebody else is surely going to get tempted to do something here. And it is Orica Greenedge who wants to work for Gerrans and Albacini at the top today.
Watch out for Cummings. He's coming up here on the right-hand side now in the black and white.
It is indeed that looming figure. He's a big powerhouse, is Steve Cummings. And we were saying at the top of the day when we were looking at him, you'd have thought that this would have been his kind of, might well have been a tempter. Well, it's clear that that's the case. He's got no teammates around him, so he's going to do it for himself for Dimension Data. But then again, we've seen him do that at the very highest level on the Tour de France.
Well, that's what he likes to do as well. He waits for the right moment and goes for that one big attack and tries to hold on to the finish. And like I said, he's succeeded in doing so before. And I think this is looking like a good opportunity for Steve Cummings' move.
I still think this is a very good opportunity for Cataldo. If he holds that gap, he knows he can get away and he knows he can time trial. Was, of course, Italian national time trial champion, 4 years ago? And he is in the zone. He has to be. Gives himself a little feed. There's no protection from the wind. 16 seconds, 15. Now, I said if he's got 14, he's got to believe he can do it again. And it's hovering at that point just now as, Orica Greenedge and the Yateses decide to have a little bit of fun.
Yeah, well, they're setting a strong pace here, and clearly still... They must have Simon Garron still in the race here, and with that they're looking at trying to just bring Cataldo back and set it up for a bunch sprint for Simon Garron.
Well, they can't decide what the time gap is. Just pedal stroke by pedal stroke, it went from 12 to 16. What?
Setting the time gap?
No, but I'll try it at the very top. But I think it's about accurate now. We've got some kind of transponder link. But about 14 seconds, I said. And if he holds that, I think he's got a chance of making it. But it's getting a little bit less. It's starting to nudge down towards the single figures. Oh, and we're there now. 9 seconds. Is it going to be heartbreak? And all the chasing right now is being done by the principals, the Yateses, for Orica Greenedge on behalf of Simon Gerrans and maybe Michael Albacini. I think it's a Gero day today by the looks of things.
I have that feeling as well. I think he's well up for a stage win at some point very, very soon, and why not today? And I think the final descent here, the guys in the bunch will really start going hard on it, because we're talking a potential stage win. Why not, take the risks for that?
That's where we are at the moment. The climb does ease. It's holding at 9 seconds, but as you can see, he's kicking on again, Cataldo. He's been amazing today. Well, can he amaze everybody and break a few hearts by delivering it? He's still got, about 2.5 Ks to go before he gets to the top, but it's starting to ease. It's down to 5% at the moment, and there he is. And he looks like he's still got a pace about him, Magnus. Yeah,
it definitely does. And the climb actually finishes at 8.3 kilometers from the finish line. So he's still got a couple of some time to go before he's at the top there. And the peloton's coming thick and fast.
It is, excuse me, I was just counting it back and saying that clock should say 7 seconds, and it does readjust itself almost immediately. I think it's down to somebody's thumb as opposed to anything electronic at the moment, but this man still, I don't think it's enough now for him. 5 seconds, I think he's going to get taken just at the top. He may well be a feature towards the end, but I think this is going to get controlled, and it's going to be a huge stormer of a finish, a barnstormer, I believe.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say we'd need to see the likes of Gerrans and Albacini coming to the front here relatively soon to actually set themselves up for the descent. It's not something that you can sort of ride further down the back and then wait for to get closer to the finish to move up. You actually need to be there already at the very top of the climb, because it'll be too many risks to take descending and trying to sort of pick riders off on the way down and then make that final move as you get it down onto the flat.
It's a painful thing to watch. He's got about 1,800 meters to go before he gets to the top, but it's going to feel like a lot more than that. He's on a flatter section right now, but that suits everybody, as you can see. And there's a lot here, including Alberto Contador, just staying again up towards the head of the race, not wanting to just do anything silly. With 10 kilometers to go, this man hits yet another curve. He can choose the lines, but unfortunately the power that he's had to put into staying away is being matched more than that by those behind him, and it looks like he's going to get taken even before the crest here.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's just a question of a couple of 100 meters of riding here for the Yates brothers on the front there, but I think we got a few more moves likely to come on this one, counter-attacks.
Yeah, it is. Is that Kelderman having another dig here?
Hessink,
principal for Team Lotto. Well, they're doing the old 1-2 on everybody, and this is a good move by Hessink. How's his descending? He's a big man.
Not the fastest descender in the world, but that may be the reason why he's having a go here as well. But looking at the responses coming straight away from Orica Greenedge, guessing he's not really getting an awful lot of distance on the bunch.
I don't know who that is with him. I'm hoping it is for his sake. It's not Julian Simon, because he's a quick man. Starts to take into the curves right now and starts to look for them. This is a feisty effort, as you can see. Out of the saddle they go. They want to crest this, and then they've got a chance of just disappearing around some of the curves that will beckon. This is exciting stuff. Cataldo's challenge then has been neutralised. He's still fighting to stay up towards the top. So is Contador, and so is Quintana. They're all there here.
But watch here now is I think one of the Yates brothers is having a proper go there, and Contador is responding. Neither Quintana's having to respond as well. So Contador is deciding to have a bit of a bike race here.
Do you know, Contador has been at the safest part, right at the front. We know he can descend absolutely beautifully, and that's what he wants to do right now. The camera just loses itself. There we are, the final crest of the day. It's downhill just about all the way to the line. It still goes downhill when it looks flat, by the way, but they've got some serious descending to do in the meantime. And Alberto Contador is setting his stall out for victory here, and takes this Category 1 climb at the line. And he's in elevated company right now. And look at those trying to salvage something today. If he gets a decent margin at the end of today, he could well be by tomorrow, which looks like a pretty decisive day in itself with an uphill finish. It could well be that this race is over very, very early indeed. And look at the damage that's been done by the pace they've carried into this climb. Riders all over the mountain here. That group, Magnus, just crossed the line now, over 30 seconds down on the Alberto Contador group. And we say that with a doff of the cap, because he really did go for it. Looking at the head of the race right now, I thought this rider had been reabsorbed, to be honest. So Contador is still on the chase, unless there's been another kick.
Yeah, well, I think this is still it. It does look a bit like Daniel Navarro to me.
Well, he's capable in this kind of terrain, but Movistar are now on the case on behalf of Quintana, and likewise it's Tinkoff with Contador. Here we are, 8.3 to go. It's a little less than that, actually. The tick is slightly out.
Yeah, it certainly is, but I think it is Navarro here kicking on and really moving, pushing hard, and it seems like the action has kind of gone out of the chase group. It looks like there's a Frances de Jeu rider coming after Navarro here now, and I wonder whether that could be Thibaut Pinot.
Well, if it's not him, it's likely to be one of a couple of others, including Sebastian Reichenbach. We'll see. Big turn, almost shoulders the barriers as he takes it. Doesn't want to start looking at the motorcycle as they start to just come together behind. It's a long descent, this one, not as long as the last one that we've had. It will flatten out with about 3 kilometres to go, so 4 kilometres of proper descending on your screens right now. You're looking at the head of the race, and as he disappears around the corner, and again there's a regrouping of this quality line, as you can see. In fact, there's been a coming together of two major groups there, and the chase is still well and truly on as they head towards the barriers. And look at the ground as well. It's slightly broken up on occasion with frost damage from the very cold winter in this part of the world. 8 seconds now, though, is a handy gap late on, trimming back to 6 as the chase is properly engaged here.
Yeah, definitely, and it goes downhill until even until the Flamme Rouge. So, but about 5% downhill until there's 2 kilometers to go, and then the from 2 to 1 is about 3% downhill. So it's relatively easy to ride, and if you got this gap and you can maintain that through the corners, then you're setting yourself up for something pretty special.
The thing is, you've got to be an amazing descender. This man clearly is. Oof! My goodness, he used the motorcycle there, and I think the cameraman was possibly at the wrong side of a corner. Nonetheless, look at him go through here. Oh, beautiful piece. A double check up into the corner. Just saw the camber wasn't quite what he wanted, and indeed made the corner work for him. Sailed through it absolutely beautifully, and he's on an absolute mission. It looks like he's going to take a gel. He drops one as well. He had a pocket full, and the way he's going right now, it could be more than that.
Keep that in your pocket instead, and use the weight.
Yes, exactly. Counterbalance yourself. Why don't you? Magnus, I think you're right. This is an amazing roll of this right now. And oh, look at that curve. Absolutely beautiful. Couldn't pedal through it. And then, in fact, got magnified coming through to that point. There we are. The 6Ks to go marker. And I think that Navarro's got a great chance of making this stick the way he is riding. Can anyone else? Has anyone else here got the same kind of credentials through the curves? Well, Astana have shown what they can do in the descent, and they're engaging with it again right now.
Yeah, they certainly are. That looks like it is Luis Leon Sanchez having a go down this hill, trying to bridge back.
Again, he's quite leggy, and I'm just actually looking as to the danger for him of grounding a pedal through the curves here. He's likely to sail through them, but with the inside pedal raised, it's always a danger, Magnus.
Well, if you start pedaling too early coming out of the corner, yes, it can be a bit of a danger. But seeing this is not, the high-speed corners, you're not backing out of it completely and then hitting it again. And with that, it tends to be not too bad, actually. And these guys, they know exactly what they're doing. And it needs to be quite something special for you to grind your pedal out.
Navarro has been joined, as you can see. Orica Greenedge are on the chase, just emerging. Can't see if Simon Gerrans is there, but don't be surprised if he is, with 4.7 kilometres to go. This is fascinating, Magnus. What a great end to what has been a superb opening day here on the Tour of the Basque Country. Yeah,
it certainly is. And what is going to happen with these two riders here now? It is Navarro's just gone off the road into the gravel there, but luckily he had Luis Leon Sanchez coming through on the inside, and didn't actually look like he lost an awful lot of time. Wow,
Danny Navarro just going at slightly cyclocrossy here. Luis Leon Sanchez, who's a big, powerful man alongside him. But what's the gap? That's the question. And Sanchez decides not to trust Navarro with the guide. He'll do it himself, all the way down to about the Flamme Rouge. Motorcycle in the way as well. And they're catching him. Look at that, get out of the way. Does so almost immediately, called by race director to wind it up, but does so on the straight. But they gained time in the curves, and that was time lost momentarily there.
Yeah, definitely lost about maybe a second or so. But the question here now is just getting onto the power, and it doesn't really matter who you got with you. You just got to have to ride absolutely flat out whatever you got and take the risk that you're happy to take through the corners. But look at these beautiful descent as well. If you get the timing right in this one, you can go so quickly down here. You don't actually need to think an awful lot or even work the brakes an awful lot. It's just getting the timing.
Is that Ruben Faria also involved in the chase here? I'm just wondering whether the Portuguese champion is also part of proceedings. 3.3 kilometres to go. I think these guys, I know I said it about Cataldo, but shred that. This looks serious, and they've got the firepower to actually make it stick at the end. And I'm looking to see what the gap is, and it looks reasonably handy at the moment. 7 seconds, they can hold that if this goes all the way to the Flamme Rouge. How much of an advantage do they need, Magnus?
Probably about 4 or 5 seconds, I guess, at this point to be able to hold on to this one. 2.8 kilometers to go, so we're down to about 5%. It starts getting to that point where they need to start actually pedal and help each other take turns, because otherwise they're going to get caught quickly.
There we are. Camera pan back, and you start to count it. 3, 4, 5. They've got about 7 seconds to my mind, with 2.4 kilometres remaining, and now it's a flat out race for the line. You've got to be brave at a moment such as this, and this man's shown it, hasn't he?
Well, Contador
can't help himself.
No, definitely not.
Well, Alberto Contador is going for it, and it's Sergio Henao staying with it. There's Quintana. These are all the favourites. And there's that man I was telling you about, Portuguese champion. He goes for it. I saw him, just caught a flash of him on the descent, and he likewise doesn't want to take it up and guide anyone else in. 1,900 metres to go. This bodes well, very well for Luis Leon Sanchez and Danny Navarro are up the road, and they're going to have a gap here. 1,800 metres. Now the camera pans up, as you can see. They're the chasers, but these guys are the hares, and they're still working well. Little bit of a pickup before they come into town.
Yeah, and I think we need to be a little bit worried about this man in certainly in the blue, Luis Leon Sanchez. He's classy bike rider, very capable climber, and that's why we've seen Alberto Contador go. Here we go then, one of the Dimension Data riders having a...
I think it's Igor Anton that's decided to push on here. We saw Steve Cummings up there a little while ago, but surely not him. Big man nonetheless. And here's the Flamme Rouge. And I think it's all late for everybody behind. Luis Leon Sanchez. If they ride this one properly and don't cat and mouse, Navarro wants a little bit of help, and Sanchez says no. He clearly believes he's got the power on board to take his man when he needs to be, and he's in an advantageous position at the moment, riding in P2 behind Navarro. Navarro threads it. He doesn't want to be mugged late on, but if they don't get it together, and here come Katusha starting to light it up right now. Is that Van den Broek that's on the chase? We'll find out in a moment's time, as we and also the Portuguese champion is engaged here, and would you believe Caio Rural in the frame with Bilbao. If he's made it over, he's got a chance today. Here we are, can't quite see it, such a long way out, but you see the gaps. It's a perfect picture for us, and what we do know is that right now Sanchez has decided to light up, and here we are, Sanchez versus Navarro. Who's your pick? Just behind, coming into town, is Bilbao, I think, for Caio Rural. They've got to watch him with 200 metres to go. He's a very quick man, and suddenly they realise the threat. There's Gerrans as well, that's also getting engaged. Oh, they're going to make it. The breakaway's going to make it to the line. Is he going to be in Navarro at the very death? No! There you go. Luis Leon Sanchez takes it. What a fantastic day's racing to open up the Basque Country Tour. Absolute wonderful cycling here. Stage 1 of the 6, and plenty more action to come, you'll be bound. That was great.
Yeah, I did enjoy that. That is brilliant racing, and the fact that these guys managed to stay away on the descent. A couple of very hairy moments there, but I think Luis Leon Sanchez played it cool, used all his experience, and managed to hold on to that one. And yeah, I think he needs to thank those guys up there as well for staying on rubber side down.
A wing and a prayer. There we are, Portuguese champion just saying congratulations. Orica Green Edge looking a bit crestfallen after their efforts. And yeah, what a chase down it was, and look at the quality behind, but no doubt the break made it in the end. If only just.
If only just, but Simon Gerrans clearly the fastest man out of the rest of the guys in the bunch, and almost catching up to breakaway Navarro and Luis Leon Sanchez.
We got a big selection there as well. The top 20 have got a time gap on everybody else, as you can see. Such was the determination of the descent. Simon Clark in 5th place, thought he'd go well today. Trek Factory Racing with Fabio Follin. Simon Gerrans, there he is in 3rd place. Danny Navarro, runner-up to Luis Leon Sanchez, who is our race leader. Wow, breath of stuff, and the clock's still rolling, and there's a lot of big gaps out there, and some have already lost their chance today. And on a 6-day stage race, you've got to make sure that every day counts.
Yeah, definitely. You can't afford to give any time away, but you know, with the racing so hard in the final, it is difficult to deal with that. And certainly we saw all the big favourites having a real go today. Even Contador very animated in the final, and with that we know that it's going to be hard.
Here is your overall, well, it's your stage. Sanchez takes it ahead of Navarro. Simon Gerrans, who is favourite for the day, finishes 3rd ahead of Follin. Simon Clark, Bacalance. Dan Martin was in the frame, Warren Barguil likewise, Tony Galopin and Chernetsky, along with the likes of Contador and of course Quintana. That was great, Magnus, and beautifully timed by Luis Leon Sanchez in every regard. He got to the line first.
Yeah, he did very smart riding in the final kilometre or so, and just certainly